Vinnie Iyer of the Sporting News joining us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Vinnie, how you doing on this Monday?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you coming on. So let's first start with the Sunday night game last night. First of all, I think that game definitely lived up to all the hype and the expectations go along with it. But one of the biggest takeaways I had from it was I think the Patriots, they just have a team that has been there and done that. And it's nothing against Pat Mahomes. It's not to diss him or put him down. But I think it's very obvious that while Tom Brady and Bill Belichick have been there and done that, that Pat Mahomes is still new to a lot of all this stuff.
Yeah, it was just interesting to see two teams that really weren't separated by much, just one play there really in the end of the Tom Brady run where he thought the Chiefs had sacked him and that play was over and they were going to settle for another field goal. So it was a tight one, and you look back and forth. I think the experience played a factor for sure, but I think you look at the game, it's pretty much matched by two teams having a turnover each, one on downs for the Patriots, going for that fourth down early, a fumble there by Brady, two interceptions by Mahomes, pretty much one punt by the Chiefs, and that was the difference in the game. So I don't think too much separates these teams. I still don't think these defenses are very good. It's all about moments and guys making plays at the right time versus being able to consistently stop anything. The Patriots were able to do that a little bit better than the Chiefs, and we'll have to see if the Chiefs' defense can get better. They had no Justin Houston. They had no Eric Berry. Two major losses there. I think they'll need those players at some point together out there to really hope that this season can go as far as they think they can with Mahomes and that offense.
You mentioned the injuries with the Chiefs' defense with Berry and Houston. So is it the Patriots' defense is just getting old and they don't have enough young athletes to fill in the hole? Because let's be realistic. It's not like guys like the McCourty brothers or Hightower, any of those guys are not getting any younger.
Yeah, it's also harder for now for the Patriots as a team to say we're going to take away the one thing the other team does well, because there are a lot of teams that can do many things well and have multiple threats. So they chose, I think, poorly in trying to take away Travis Kelce. I would have tried to take care of Tyreek Hill. You can't leave him. If you're old and slow, you can't leave him one-on-one downfield and to try to take away other things. So the Patriots were going to leave something open. The Chiefs, I think it was a mistake there to leave Hill, because Hill's the big play guy that can change the course of the game quickly, where if you make – I thought they would make Mahomes drive a little bit more. Worked out in their favor just barely here, but it's just getting to a point where all these teams have so many weapons. Even if you have some good defensive pieces, it's hard to keep up with them.
Speaking of Mahomes, what are your impressions of him after these first few weeks? You know, he was that blazing hot start, and then you turn around, he's got 2 straight games with 2 interceptions. You know, is this just part of the growing process for a young quarterback? You know, do you think that he's going to be a guy who could maybe be prone to interceptions down the road? Kind of what are your impressions of Pat Mahomes at this point?
Yeah, I thought he was going to have a lot of touchdowns and a lot of interceptions this year. So far, he's cut it down. He's had a couple games with those turnovers now, but he's just very confident in his abilities. He sometimes can overthrow the ball. That's where you see a lot of the incompletions and turnovers come from, overthrows, where he's really confident that he can rifle it in there and not maybe see all the coverages, just so confident in his arm strength that he's going to make the right play moving around and throwing. So I think that's going to be something he learns in time, where it's okay to take the shorter play. If you need a 3rd and 5, go for that play that's right in front of you versus taking that chance to deep, even though you know a lot of times you can make that throw happen. So it's a little bit about reining himself in a little bit to adjust here.
Another team that's been hot and still undefeated, the Rams, in a very cold environment, went to Denver and got the job done. They did it on the ground. Todd Gurley with over 200 rushing yards, I should say. In my opinion, I think Todd Gurley should be the league MVP. You know, where do you rank Gurley right now in terms of the MVP debate?
Yeah, it's hard for me because this team is so loaded and they can do so many things, but he's having a season that we've seen before, and guys like Marshall Faulk and Priest Holmes and Sean Alexander, LaDainian Tomlinson, that type of season as running back. So I think if he can push closer to getting that 25 to 30 touchdown range with well over 2,000 yards from scrimmage, he's going to be in the conversation. Right now, the quarterbacks are all pretty tight here. When you look at some of the guys out there, Tom Brady has always been going to be in the conversation. Patrick Mahomes. I think Phillip Rivers is going to get more and more consideration here as the Chargers continue to play well. If so many guys, Drew Brees early in the season has been big for his team, but I think overall Gurley can maybe stand out as all those quarterbacks kind of get tight there and battle each other. I think maybe Gurley's competition at running back might be right there in Los Angeles as well with Melvin Gordon. So Gurley's just having a year that we've seen a lot of special backs do all throughout, including himself last year, but I think he looks even better than he was last year.
Is Shaun McVeigh right now the guy that we can consider the best offensive play caller in the NFL?
Well, I think it's close. There's a lot of good guys who are really executing. Sean Payton, you'll get Andy Reid called a pretty good game yesterday as well, given what the Patriots were doing. So there are a lot of good offensive play callers. But Shaun McVeigh, I think some people think of it as he's a complicated scheme guy and a genius and all that stuff. But no, all he does is put his personnel in great position to succeed. He knows he has a step back. He knows he has a great offensive line. Use that as the basis. Get your three receivers in position to create mismatches and have them interchangeable. So it's very simple. They come out in 11 personnel. They trust their guys to get the job done. Only four guys mainly involved, but those four guys are hard to stop from down to down.
Vinnie Iyer of the Sporting News joining us at the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Give him a follow on Twitter at Vinnie Iyer. Iyer spelled I-Y-E-R. Vinnie, let's turn our attention to the NFC East. The Eagles had that big win on Thursday night over the Giants, and then both the Cowboys and the Redskins with very good wins on Sunday. So as of right now, it looks like the NFC East is a three-man race. So what are your impressions of the NFC East perspective moving forward?
Well, I think the Redskins, you never know what you're going to get from game to game. It's kind of a mystery. They seem to either really be good or really be bad from week to week, and it's just part of the nature of the inconsistent players all around. So it's not that surprising. So I don't really consider them as a serious threat here. The Cowboys, the biggest question mark there is going to be the consistency. But I think they found some offensive rhythm here. They found their identity. They're going back to what they do best, kind of trusting Dak Prescott more. I said that way back in week one, wrote about that they just say, Dak Prescott, go get him. You'll figure out some things here. You don't have the greatest receiving core, but you can run around, trust your running game, trust your own legs to make some plays there. So it's just good to see that the Cowboys are kind of opening things up again. In Philadelphia and them, I think the defenses are also starting to show up as well for both of these teams. So I think it's really two teams between the Eagles and Cowboys. The Cowboys, Eagles both been very inconsistent, but it really is going to come down to their head-to-head matchups this year.
Interestingly enough, the Cowboys, they're averaging 28.7 points per game at home, but only 12.3 points on the road. They're undefeated at home, which is odd because for his career, Jason Garrett is a coach who has a better road record than home record. So is it as simple as this season, the Cowboys may just be a better home team than road team?
Well, I think a couple things happen why they're better at home. I think they're a little bit more comfortable with what they're doing offensively. Everyone gets settled in a little bit more. Their defense can really be disruptive, so you have some noise in your favor, feel very much in the wheelhouse going after the quarterbacks there. You get that support as well. So I think you look at it, it's a kind of an interesting flip script here that we've seen from the Cowboys, and now it's a challenge for them to, can they get going on the road? Can they not lose the offense and look completely lost there? So maybe there's a lot of confidence there with what they did. The Jaguars defense kind of just stuck to what they could do well and really took it to a team. So I think that was a big step for their offense, especially after the Texans debacle.
Eagles finally get back to 500 thanks to their big win over the Giants on Thursday night. The defense really came out to play, but I think part of that might have been also because the Giants' offensive line is so poor. I think the biggest deal for me was the offense got going for the Eagles on Thursday night. Carson Wentz finally looked like the 2017 Carson Wentz who was on his way to possibly winning league MVP. So do you think this Eagles team has finally turned that corner and they're ready to make a run down the stretch of the season?
Yeah, I think we still have to see if they can get there. I think the Giants win, you just have to take with a little bit of grain of salt because we know where the Giants are headed and no one is beating them at this moment. So, yeah, whipping up the Giants is a good way to get going in a game where a lot of people saw it being close and to come out there. But you got the Panthers and Jaguars and Cowboys, Saints ahead. So that's going to be a real indication where this team is going to be after the next 4 weeks of the season. But at home, you figure very good chance to beat the Panthers, who are just not the same way team. I think the London game is a good swing game to see where they're at. The Jaguars are not playing like themselves now, and so they can win there and build some momentum, have a bye before facing the Cowboys there in prime time. I think it's going to set up well there in a few weeks where they have the control of the division that they're looking for.
You know, you mentioned the Panthers and the Jaguars, and both the Cowboys and Redskins just played them. And the biggest takeaway I had from both those wins was both the Redskins and the Cowboys played keep away. They both won the time of possession battle in an extreme manner, you know, over 10 minutes more for each team. So is that kind of the recipe maybe for the Eagles as well, is if you can control the ball, keep the ball away from the other team's offense, that's the way to maybe put the Panthers and the Jaguars in a hole?
Well, I think another thing is don't be afraid to have your quarterback move around as well, because that changes things there with Carson Wentz looking like he's moving better with each passing game and can make some plays there. But with the Panthers, they're just such an inconsistent offense. Really, if you look at them closer, it's really pretty much they go as Cam Newton runs and this Christian McCaffrey runs. If you kind of contain those two players in that particular aspect of what they can do, you're going to be successful here. It's not like this team with the wide receivers they have is really going to exploit the Eagles' weakness back there. They've been pretty good up front, but that's where the Eagles can make their hay as well with Fletcher Cox and company here. So I think overall this is a game really features what the Eagles do well and what the Panthers don't do well.
Vinny, one more before I let you go, and always appreciate your time here on 97.3 ESPN. Again, folks, follow him on Twitter at Vinnie Iyer. Iyer spelled I-Y-E-R. Vinny, at this point in the season, we're 6 weeks in. Is there a team or a player at this point that has surprised you the most, that kind of you look at and say, I didn't expect that from that team or that player?
Well, I look at a couple teams that I'm kind of surprised with. I think the Bengals in general, just because I didn't expect them to be this good. The Ravens as well. I look at them, and these teams, you know, they always have the talent that they can cut around, and they're coming off down seasons, a lot of pressure on their coaches to come through this year. But you got to be impressed with how these offensive changes have worked for both teams. The Bengals have become a little bit more, I think, creative with what they do, with Tyler Boyd emerging there, Bill Lazor, that offense, having Joe Mixon really find his legs there behind a better offensive line. You look at the Ravens overhaul their entire receiving core, feel good about what they can do as well, and Joe Flacco playing very well with Lamar Jackson behind him being a gadget player. So I think those two teams have surprised me the most in the fact that there are a lot of things I like, and they can still be big factors here down the stretch.
Vinnie Iyer of the Sporting News has joined us here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline on 97.3 ESPN. Vinnie, always appreciate your time, and hopefully the game tonight between the Packers and the 49ers, at least somebody's healthy to play tonight fantasy football-wise, because I have guys asking me, like, who do I play? Because it seems like half of both teams' offenses are going to be out tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those games where I think you'll see it simple. Whoever's out there is going to get the ball most, and I think the Packers will win this game pretty much going away here. It's just really hard for the 49ers to compete here. The Packers typically very good at home in these primetime situations against lesser teams. That's what you're going to see tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Vinny, appreciate the time as always.
All right, thank you.